Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Eliza Morrill. Welcome to our home in Columbus, Georgia. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Eliza Morrill. Welcome to our 1873 Victorian in Columbus, Georgia. I'm so excited to show you around. I grew up here in Columbus, Georgia. I'm a professional photographer and co-own a digital marketing agency. I also create content and am mom to 4 children, so I wear a lot of hats. I live here with my husband, our 4 kids, and our English bulldog, Bowie, who snores a lot, and our new kitten, Ruby, and we just love it here. So I grew up here in Columbus, but to be candid, really always saw myself moving far away and never coming back. But my husband and I, he is from upstate New York, moved back here, and honestly, we love it so much. It has been the best experience. I love Columbus for a lot of reasons. The biggest, I'd say, is that you have kind of the big city feel in a small town. We're right here on the river, so there's a lot to do as far as whitewater rafting goes. You can go to great shows at the State Theater of Georgia. You can go to great concerts at the River Center. And one big thing that we really love about Columbus is our neighborhood. We live in the historic district downtown, which is a very walkable neighborhood. Columbus in and of itself is not the most walkable town, but the downtown area is definitely an exception to that rule. So we really love our neighborhood. Welcome to our home. This is the entry hall, and I really just wanted this to be cozy but functional. We do have 4 children. This is our main entrance, which was not the plan originally, but plans change. So I really wanted to put a chest here. A lot of hidden storage is very important around this house. Historic homes are not known for their storage, so we just created it where we could find it. I got this for $60 off of Facebook Marketplace. It had a bit of an odor when we purchased it. I had to go through a few different means of removing that odor, but I'm happy to say that it's gone now. These are paintings that my uncle did of the river here in Columbus, so that's just a really special piece. A lot of the art in our home has a special story behind it, which is really important to us, because as you will find, we really love art. Moving to this, we say that this is my grandmother. It's actually not. I don't really know who she is, but my grandfather bought it because it looked like my grandmother. So you heard it here first, it's not really her. But it's really nice when I'm walking out the door every morning just to see her. And then above that is a piece that my late brother did in high school. So I just love that they hang here together. I love this antique pine desk. Some family friends were downsizing. I happily took it off their hands. And I just love antique pine. I think it is so warm and it just has such a great grain to it. And one of the first things that I noticed and loved about this house was the bay window, and it just fits perfectly here. And it was also a great spot for this chair, which is such an interesting piece. My parents actually bought this at an auction house outside of Philadelphia, which is where I was born. It just has the coolest, it's in the raw, so it's never been stripped. I am luckily past the point of worrying about my children like gnawing on what I'm sure is lead paint. Not really, just kidding. But I love this chair. I just think it has so much character. And before this home, I could never keep a plant alive, but this house has such great light. It is what I noticed first when I walked in. So you will see a lot of plants. It's become kind of a hoarding situation, and I will make no apologies. I love rugs, especially vintage Persian rugs. Almost every rug in this house is from eBay. It's not from a fancy estate sale or a fabulous dealer. 99% of them are from eBay. I am always scrolling and looking for deals and just kind of moving them in and out and giving them to friends when they no longer fit. And I love this piece. It was in the dining room of our last home, and it's just so fun and bright. It's also a really unique shape. and in size, and I just think it works really well in here. These pieces were a gift from a client. They were sitting in her warehouse. She knew that I loved Asian art, and she said, take these with you. And they really fit perfectly on what is kind of an awkward space. And I think it just really kind of balances them, and I love it. This mirror was in my grandmother's condo outside of Philadelphia. And I don't really know if there's a story behind it, but every time that I see it, I think of her and spending my summers in Philadelphia, so it's super special to me. This piece is so special to me. We have a lot of portraits in our home. I just love being surrounded by the people that I love. This is my brother who sadly died about 15 years ago. And this portrait was commissioned when he was in high school. And my mom has a big watercolor of this one, but this was commissioned for my grandfather. And this is our family dog, Honeymoon, who he loved. And it sat unframed in my childhood closet for many years. I was honestly just kind of too afraid to take it to the framers. I didn't want anything to happen to it. And so I had been scouring for a frame that would fit it. And on Facebook Marketplace, I found the frame, and I met a woman at the McDonald's parking lot in Phoenix City, Alabama. And she opened up her minivan trunk, and I immediately thought, oh my gosh, this is not what I was thinking it was, but she was so kind to meet me there, so I handed her the cash and I left. And I put it in the frame, and it just looked, something was off. It was beautiful, but it just wasn't what I was looking for. So for a few months, it just hung here. And then I realized somebody had painted the frame brown. So I went to the shed and got some mineral spirits, and I just wiped it off, and now it's gold, and it has this really strange green velvet that I think my brother would think was hilarious because he was a very hilarious guy. And it's just so special to me. So I love seeing him when I come and go every day. This is Bowie, our English bulldog, who you will probably hear snoring throughout this tour. She definitely rules the roost. We love bulldogs. She's our second bulldog. We're big Georgia fans, but also bulldogs are the best. And she, honestly, this is her house. It really is. That's just the truth. So we really always wanted to live in this neighborhood for many reasons, but it was honestly just cost prohibitive for us. We have 4 kids. We need a lot of space, but I've always loved historic homes. I grew up in a historic home. Everyone in my family loves them, so it kind of runs in the family. So I used to find myself just driving around the neighborhood looking for the biggest house in the worst condition, because I knew that's probably all that we could afford, and would just knock on doors and was always told no. But one day I knocked on this door and I introduced myself and said, would you ever be willing to sell your home? And he said, you know what, actually I would. So I texted my husband and I said, hey, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing. If you don't hear from me in 20 minutes, come and save me. And instead of radio silence, he got a barrage of photos of a falling in home with busted out windows, caving in walls, and shocking to everyone, including myself, he said, oh my gosh, wait, I think this is our home. When can I see it? So we bought the home in 2019, and it was a 3-year renovation, which was horrible. But we live here now and we love it. This is our kids' playroom. It may have felt like a risky choice to put our playroom right as you enter the home, but functionally it was the best thing. Eventually, this will probably become like a more formal sitting area, but for now, it is generally a lot messier than this. This is an IKEA dresser that my husband painstakingly recovered with peel and stick wallpaper, which I think just really elevates the space, and it gets so much use. This is just chock full of toys. And this piece right here is one of my favorite things in the home. My friend Teal Duncan Henley is an incredible artist, and she painted this beautiful portrait of our home and the kids playing in the front yard, and I just love it so much. And then these are her lampshades. She is just so wildly talented, so I love having a piece of her in our home. Over here, this is a pull-out sofa from Facebook Marketplace. It fits perfectly. I wash the covers all the time because our kids love to pull out the sofa and have a family movie night in here all the time. It was really important for me for this to obviously be a kid-friendly space, but to be a little sophisticated so that when people do arrive, it doesn't just scream chaos all the time. And I just love this sofa. Like I said, we have a lot of plants around the house. And then this piece above, a friend was moving out of her house. She was getting rid of it. And I said, ooh, I will take it from you. It is spray painted blue. And I think it just adds a little bit of fun to a playroom. So this right here was actually in the entry hall when we first bought the home, but it was caving right here. The whole house was, it was starting to sink. So we needed to A, open the space up, but B, support this structurally. The plan was to close the doors and block the mess, but the doors don't close. That's just the nature of a historic home. This is out of an old elementary school here in Columbus. Our kids obviously draw on it all the time. Lots of hidden storage down here. And then this is chock full of board games and puzzles and books. This was in my grandmother's home. And I remember always playing cards around her table, and it was absolutely ruthless. It was never oh, you're 5, I'll give you a break. It was, you're 5 and you're bad at this game and now you're out. So we're a pretty ruthless board game family and card game family. And when this opens up on a Friday night, you know it's going down. So when we first bought this home, one of the hardest things to do was to distinguish what was original and what had been added at a later time. And one thing that had been added at a later time was a very large arch over the living space, which was not original. But we wanted to reincorporate that back in. So we added a few arches throughout the house. This is the first one, and it leads you from the playroom into our living room. So come on with me. So anything that could possibly be done in a renovation, we did. We took it down to the studs, all new electric, all new plumbing, new roofing. We had to restore a lot of windows. And then the back of the home was an addition, which was not structurally sound. So we had to remove that addition and we replaced it with a 2-story addition. So it was really important to us that we kept the historic charm of the house while making it functional for our family, but more importantly, structurally sound and something that would last another 150 years. So usually one of the first things that people ask about when they walk into our home are these fiddly fig trees. We have several of them, and I don't know if you ever had them before, but they are very fickle, and it is truly not me. It is the light in this home. We have a lot of indirect bright light. I do sometimes feed them my black coffee when I'm not done with it for the day. It seems to make them happy, but really they just are so large and luscious, and I love them dearly. I love this coffee table so much. I searched for years for this table, and I am pretty good about not buying something in the meantime. I usually just wait until I find what I really like. And this was $150 off of Facebook Marketplace. And I couldn't wait, so I went in my dad's truck in the pouring rain to pick it up, really thinking that it would fit in the backseat of my dad's truck. However, I was wrong. And this sweet man helped me in the pouring rain fit it in the back of the truck. And he was going to use his cash to take his wife to a reptile convention in Atlanta. And so he got to go to the reptile convention, and I got this beautiful statement piece, which I think really just ties the room together so well. I used to not dislike these brown couches. I really love them, but I just wanted to recover them with a different fabric. But now I think the brown actually looks so good together, and I just love this table. These sofas actually got from a friend off of Facebook Marketplace. And this piece right here is probably one of the nicer pieces in our home. So my great uncle was an antique dealer in Indiana, and my grandfather bought it from him, and it was restored outside of Harrisburg. And now it lives here. And I really love, I have this black and white photo of my grandparents at some meeting in Washington, D.C. And I just love having their photos and pictures around. Sadly, none of the fireplaces in this home are working, but all the mantles are original, and so filling them up has been so fun, especially around Christmas. It gets very festive around here. This is actually a plant that I got off of an online estate sale. Didn't know you could do that, but you can. And then this piece right here is one of my favorite things in our home. It was actually done by a childhood friend of mine, Mary Margaret Monsees. She is a resin artist in Savannah, Georgia, and she took these hydrangeas and pressed them and then covered them in resin. And I just think that they're so cool. It's such a statement piece. And then above that is a painting by Booth Malone, a local artist that my brother picked out. And Bowie's always making herself known. So this is the frame TV, which I absolutely love. We switch out the art pretty regularly. A lot of times my children will find something bizarre or a really unflattering photo of me and put it up there as our daily art. My husband actually made this frame using crown molding, and then I just covered it in rub and buff. And then above that is an Aaron Gregory, who is another local artist here in Columbus. There is so much artistic talent in this town, and I love being surrounded by it. So this piano is an 1873 Steinway. It is the same age as the house, and I saw it on Facebook Marketplace. Somebody posted it and said, you can have it if you come and get it. So I hired movers, and it sat in storage for 3 years, and it just fills an otherwise kind of awkward space so well. It is relatively untunable, but still very fun for my kids to play on. And then I love these lamps. So really, I love the shades. These lamps are actually from Amazon. They're just table lamps, but the shades I got for $3 at an estate sale. And I think that is such a great hack. Finding a base that you may not love, but pairing it with a really fun shade. I buy lamps all the time, either for the base or the shade. If I don't like, one or the other, I'll just switch it out. And they're generally very reasonably priced at estate sales and also Goodwill. So definitely check that out the next time you're in the market. During our renovation, everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong. It was absolutely horrific, and it was a really hard time for our family. There were a lot of times when we didn't feel like we were gonna be able to move in. And then personally, we have 4 children, and our 2 youngest children had a lot of health challenges during that time. We had an open heart surgery, a brain surgery, an airway surgery, and many, many months spent in the hospital. And so during that time, I would be at the hospital with our younger 2, and my husband would be working from home during the pandemic with our older 2 in a very small rental house. And it was just a really hard time for us, which means that we will never ever take for granted the gift that it is to A, have everyone under the same roof together, and B, have a home to share. We're now in the dining room, one of my favorite areas in the home, and it has a lot of really special pieces in here. The first is this chandelier that was my grandfather's. He actually bought it in Austria. He had it shipped to the US, and it hung in his home in Harrisburg until he gave it to my sister, and it hung in her home in Columbus, which is also a historic home. And when she moved to Atlanta, she gifted it to me. And putting it back together is a feat unlike anything you've ever experienced in your life, but it was definitely worth it in the end. It has a lot of candles, as you can see, and they will never stand up straight no matter what I do. So it just adds to the charm and the character, and I love it. One thing that was really important to me in this home was not making it feel too stuffy. In our last house, it was easy for me to add Victorian furniture and not have it feel too grandma, for lack of a better term, because it was a mid-century modern home. But when you have a Victorian, it really, for me, was important to kind of mix more rustic items with more antique or Victorian items. So this farmhouse table is one of my favorite finds. A friend was moving town. It was in her storage unit, and it is the perfect length for our family and to have guests. I paired it with these bamboo chairs that I found in an estate sale and these varnish in chairs. Varnish Collection is a local company founded by some sisters who are friends of mine, and they have a lot of rattan furniture that is super cool. So I love having these here. This right here is one of my most prized possessions. I have a lot of steals and deals in this house. This is probably my only splurge. I found this at auction, and it's an original oil. It's a reproduction of an Audubon, but it was painted, I believe, in the 30s. Don't quote me on that. but it is one of my favorite pieces. This is such a specific size, this area, and so finding something that would fill it and add character and charm was quite the task. So when I saw this, I knew that I had to have it, and it is one of my favorite pieces. I paired it with some Majolica oyster plates that I got from my sister. She has an interior store in Atlanta, The Acquired Home, and she really helps me source a lot of my plates. And then we tiled over the bottom of the fireplace. I got all of this Italian tile from Dirt Cheap for $7.99 several years ago. And then we chose to paint the screen just to match the tile and let the painting pop. And I really love how it turned out. This piece came out of my grandfather's home in Harrisburg, as did the mirror and the lamps. They're really just so beautiful and so special to me for a lot of reasons. I love the lion poles, and the feet actually had to be trimmed off because a previous owner couldn't fit it in their home. So the feet of the buffet are trimmed off, but we love it just the same. I got this piece at an estate sale, and same for these little guys, added some ribbon. These were a Goodwill find. I was hoping they still had the price tags on them. I think I paid $2 for these. These are all Goodwill books. I love to take the jacket covers off of books and just pay attention to the spine cover that is there, and I use them all the time. If you look closely, you'll see kind of some odd titles. It's probably because they're from Goodwill and I haven't actually read them. So this little bar cart my sister gave me for Christmas one year, and I have paired it with all these decanters that I found. I think I got all of them at Goodwill, actually. These candlestick holders, I found at an estate sale as this little table. I've got all of my favorite El Guapo bitters here. We love hosting our friends, especially our neighborhood friends. We have such a great group on this street, and it's kind of a, hey, what are you doing Friday night? Come on over. So I really wanted this to be kind of accessible for everyone. Make the drink that you want. We've got ice buckets. Like I said, we've got bitters, and I just want it to kind of be an inviting space. I don't want anybody to feel like they can't grab what they want. Obviously, I'll make it for them if they want, but it's important to me as a host for my guests to feel welcome and like they're in their own home. I'm not a professional interior designer. I have no design background, and to be honest, half the time I really feel like I have no idea what I'm doing, but I feel like that kind of adds to the charm. And I think that over time, when you layer and you collect, if you love something, it's probably gonna work out. And I think that in today's world, it's really easy to look online and think, oh my gosh, my house doesn't look like that, and I don't have the kind of money to do something like that. But the reality is, home takes time, and not everybody has a professional background or the ability to hire a professional. So really, you can have a beautiful house on a budget is my belief, and yeah. One thing that I feel like some designers shy away from is family photos and kid photos, but I love family photos and kid photos. I'm a professional photographer, so sometimes it's a cobbler's children wear no shoes situation, but this gallery wall is kind of my answer to that. It is a lot of kind of slice of life photos of my kids. I don't know that really any of them are posed, but they are just sweet memories and reminders of how little they used to be, because they really do grow up so fast. And I have used IKEA Ribba frames. They are my favorite. They are so reasonably priced, and they really look fantastic on a gallery wall. I paired them with these that I got with my sister at Mart in Atlanta. And then I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret, okay? This is a Goodwill frame, and I just painted a random squiggle on the back of it. Like the existing art, I just flipped it around and did a blue squiggle because I felt like the space needed a blue squiggle. So that is my confession at this time. But I love this gallery wall. I love that I walk by every morning and I see my kids. Like I said, they really do grow up so fast, and I feel like family photos are so important to have in a home. And I just love them. So this is where the original part of the home stops. And when we first purchased the home, it had a one-story addition that was not at all structurally sound. I mean, we're talking disintegrating cinder blocks. So we took that addition off and we added a 2-story addition, which houses our kitchen and our primary suite. So come on in to the kitchen. This is our little coffee bar area. This gets a lot of use, and I love this space. I love this tile. This is on clearance at Lowe's for $7. And I just love the pop of blue, just a little bit of color to add something. This is one of my favorite pieces. This hung in my parents' house growing up. It's just a little Pied Piper, and I think it's so fun and whimsical. And I'm a big coffee mug collector, so got a lot of those in there. My grandparents' crystal, and just kind of a nice hodgepodge of old and new in here. So one thing that I really wanted in our kitchen was natural light to kind of match the rest of the home. So I wanted as many windows as we could fit and a Dutch door, and we delivered. So this kitchen, you know, we have 4 kids, so it has a lot of use. It had to be very functional, and we do cook a lot. So the cabinetry was really important, that it was beautiful but also functional. And I scoured the internet high and low for the best RTA or ready to assemble cabinets. And we ended up using Cabinet Joint, which has, in my opinion, the most customizable options for cabinets. And they were great with working with us to A, make it beautiful, but B, super functional for our family. So really no square inch is left unused in here. This stove, we have a friend who is an incredible chef, and this was sitting in his storage unit for several years, and he gifted it to us. And so this, we actually measured out these windows based on this stove. So we had it restored, and it's a little quirky, but we love it. My husband and boys cook pancakes every Saturday morning right here on this griddle. And I cannot tell you how often we use this oven. It gets a lot of use. The range hood was actually built by my dad. So he lives in Columbus now, but before that he lived in Wisconsin, and he built it in his garage, disassembled it, packed it in suitcases, and brought it down to us because he is an angel from heaven and so crafty. So we then covered it in drywall and then added these plates. I love these plates so much. So the center plate is actually a funny story. I was at an estate sale with a friend, and you see a preview a few days before things go live. And I loved this lemon plate. I had to have this lemon plate, but I get there, we're there 2 hours early. We're number 40 in line. We're not gonna get the lemon plate. So we're in line with our purchases. We got a few things, and she says, I'm just gonna take another lap. And lo and behold, if she does not return with the lemon plate. And she found it on some random bathroom wall, and it now hangs here, my pride and joy. It's so beautiful. The smaller Majolica plates I got off of eBay, and then the larger plates are VH rechargers that a friend helped me source. I love a cafe curtain, and because I wanted to keep the natural light but have a little bit of privacy when necessary, I used this beautiful fabric by my friend Luli Wallace. She's an incredible artist and textile designer. And it is this really cool pecan pattern, which is, very Southern. And I love the soft blue. And I think it just really adds to the space and makes it even more beautiful. So as I mentioned, I love a rug. The thing about rugs in the kitchen is that I personally don't want to spend much money on them because I know that they're going to have pasta sauce on them in 5 business days. So I got every rug in the kitchen off of eBay. I think this one was $45. It has actually been here for so long because it hides so much. And I absolutely love it. And it just has, you can be barefoot in here and it doesn't feel cold. I just love it. We actually went with marble on our island, which is a very risky decision for a family with 4 kids, but it is held up so well. I don't mind the etching. Knock on wood, it has not stained, but it just adds such a cool, natural stone look. And if it gets destroyed, I can just have it rehoned down the road. Hopefully never, but the option is there. I also really wanted soapstone, but it was just not in the budget. This is black granite, and I honestly love it more than soapstone. It is not as temperamental. It's basically indestructible, and it was, I think, a fifth of the price. So this was just such a good choice for us. These pendants, I kind of wanted to add something a little more modern in here. I love the kind of the bone outside and the brass interior, which lends itself to the other brass in the kitchen. And I just think they look really nice, and they add kind of a soft light at the end of the day when, you know, you're cleaning up and closing down the kitchen. Just adds a nice little mood lighting. So one thing that I really wanted to do in this home was A, maximize storage, and B, take advantage of the ceiling height. So this ceiling height is the same as the rest of the main floor in the home. And this is what we call the kitchen hutch. So these are RTA cabinets through cabinet joint, and they, along with Catherine Kimmel, helped us design this kind of floor to ceiling storage area. So we use it as a workspace. I love a cookbook. They are all over our kitchen, and I'll kind of sit here and plan out meals. All of our kids' art is in here, and I just love having a bunch of storage in here. It's so functional. I think it really just adds a little bit of grandeur to the space. We went with a new gray for the perimeter cabinets, and then navel, which is a deep kind of navy blue for the island. And I love how they just complement each other, and I think it just makes the space look warm and inviting. As you know, I love portraits. This is Winnie, our last bulldog. She was so sweet. My friend Katie Jacobson is an incredible local painter, and she did this portrait of Winnie in front of our Christmas tree in our old house, and I just love seeing her every day. And then these are really cool historic etchings that came out of my friend's grandmother's home. She had an incredible home here in Columbus, and she was very kind to let me go through and pick a few things, and these are just so cool and special. Eventually, I'd like to take them up to the ceiling, but this is our starting point. And yeah, so after our very long 3-year renovation, the fun began, and that was time to design. I love vintage finds. I have a Facebook Marketplace problem. I love Goodwill and Salvation Army and hand-me-downs from friends and family, and that is really what I have filled this space with. So as I mentioned, we are definitely an art family, and gallery walls are something that I just love so much, but have always been very intimidated by them. Lucky for me, my husband loves things like measuring tapes and levels, and so he is responsible for putting the holes in the wall, and I'm responsible for telling him where to put things. So this was definitely a labor of love. It took several years for us to even have the courage to tackle it, but I'm so glad that we did because I just love how it looks. This piece right here is a print of Teal Duncan Henley, my friend that I mentioned earlier, and this is a frame from Goodwill, and I actually got rid of the mat and just added some glue dots to the back of it, and I love it. It is just so colorful and fun. She does such a great job with beaches, and I love to mix prints and originals and fun and funky and, you know, something a little more antique or somber. I think having a nice mix of things while trying to keep, you know, similar frames or one or two different styles of frames really helps the gallery wall feel put together and just add a little bit more depth. So this is Tippy. I have no idea who Tippy is, but this is an original sketch that I found in a Goodwill, and she was $4, and I was so sad that somebody just left their dog portrait there, so I felt like I had to take her home, and I added some rub and buff to the frame, and I think she's just so cute, and it has her name on it, and I just had to take her home. And then this right here is an original Lily Wallace, another great local artist and friend of mine. She occasionally releases these angel series, and my husband got this in memory of my brother, and it's just really special to me, so I love it. This is a little teal Duncan Henley, and that is one of her colorful nudes, which I just love. I paired it with a Goodwill frame and painted the mattes white and pink to complement the print, and I think it turned out really well. This is actually by my mom, and I think it's just so pretty and fun. I got these guys for $1 each in an estate sale. Same with this. And really everything that you see here was either painted by a friend or found in an estate sale or a Goodwill. This is one of my favorite pieces right here. This was my dad's helmet when he was a volunteer firefighter outside of Philadelphia. And it hung in my room growing up. It was in my son's room for a while. Got a little too much use, so now it's hanging up on the wall. And I think it's just a really fun way to add character and texture and dimension to a gallery wall. So when we were building this area, we had kind of this weird dead space between the return and the end of the wall. And so we decided to make it what we call Bowie's hidey-hole, which when she's not sleeping in someone's bed, she'll sometimes humble herself and sleep in there. But we put this little Georgia Bulldog on top of it, and it's just a really cool little quirk of our home. This piece is really special to me. It was painted by my friend Katie Jacobson, and it is based off of a medium format film photo that I took of our children in the backyard of our rental home when we were renovating this house. And as I mentioned, this renovation was just a really hard time for us. And this, just for me, kind of represents that you can go through really tough things. Our son here was just relearning how to walk after his brain surgery. And so he was kind of, a little unbalanced. And I love seeing this and just knowing that things got better and we live here now. And it just reminds me of a really hard but important time in our life. So my grandfather was quite the character and had 5 dachshunds at all times. And when I say this man was obsessed with his dachshunds, he would take out ads in the paper when it was their birthday, and he had a whole room with dachshund-sized furniture in it. And he was buried with his dachshunds. The man loved dachshunds. So of course he commissioned this portrait of his, at the time, 6 dachshunds. And my husband, this is not my husband's favorite painting, but it might be mine. I think it is just so funny. I love the quilt that they're on. On the back, there is this letter between the artist and my grandfather. He's Smitty's ear is a little more brown there. And he just loved him so much. And I love looking at him every day. It's one of my favorite things. Throughout the house, you will find quite the mix of things. I inherited some antique pieces from my grandfather, but I also got things out of someone's minivan in a parking lot at the Piggly Wiggly. It really is a pretty eclectic mix. We love an IKEA hack. We love kind of DIYing things as best we can. And I think our home is a really good reflection of that. This is our daughter's room, and though I was quite a tomboy growing up, she is the girliest of girly girls, and she wanted a pink room, so that is what we did. I painted this mirror with some of her favorite things, and these are prints from a friend, Mary Margaret Monsees, who is a very talented artist who now lives in Savannah. We grew up together. And I have collected these brass bows for years and just find them at Goodwill all the time. And so I've incorporated those in here. And she loves knickknacks and she loves makeup. And so there's a lot of that in here. So this is the bed that I actually grew up in. And I originally had purchased a different bed for this room, but I just couldn't pass it up when my parents said, come get it or it goes away. So this is the 4-poster that I grew up in. She loves it. And the original bed that I had bought had this really cool fabric that was upholstered, and it came with the bedding. And so I just took the bedding off of that and put it on here. This is such a special piece to me. It is by an artist named Harry Teague, who has since passed away, but he was a very prominent businessman who had a catastrophic stroke and lost a lot of his function, but found a love for folk art. So my parents bought this for me, I want to say when I was 9, and it was unframed until this spring when my husband and I got a wild hair to try to put it in an acrylic float frame ourselves, which was not like the best marriage building project that we've ever done. But I think it looks great and I'm happy that we did it. And now it finally has a home. So this rug is another eBay find. I love an eBay rug and it really just checked all of the boxes. It was pink and fun and girly, and so she loves it. I love this original mantle and wanted to incorporate a lot of art on top of it. This is a print also by Teal Duncan Henley. And our daughter was born with a congenital heart defect and has spent a lot of time in the hospital and has had some pretty huge surgeries. And so I love this piece by local artist Helen Brooks of a heart because she also has a special heart. These were my cowboy boots as a child, and they sadly cannot be worn anymore because they are so worn in, but I just love them. And it was really important for me to have a fun and functional room for our kids. Of course, I want it to be pretty, but I also want it to reflect them and what they like to do and who they like, which for my daughter is Taylor Swift. I also am a huge Swiftie, and so when she said that she wanted this in her room, I was just giddy because, you know, it maybe is not like the typical designer room decor, but it is something that she loves, and so we added it. So designing a room for twin boys who are no longer little boys was a bit challenging. I wanted it to be fun, but a little grown up, but not too grown up. So this was the answer. One of them saw a ship painting and said, "Hey, I really like that." And we just kind of went with it. So I love this. We're big Georgia fans. Really everyone in my family went to Georgia. And so this was in my brother's apartment, so it hangs here now. And I wanted to tie in that like kind of pop of red. So these beds were a yard sale find by my sister. The trunks came off of Facebook Marketplace, and I think I got these little quilts at Home Goods. I paired them with just a typical sham and these really cute needlepoint pillows that I got at a yard sale. And this was in my dad's house growing up. It has been really sturdy and heavy duty for them, which is nice when you have twin boys. These lamps have a very funny story. I found them off of Facebook Marketplace and I asked for the dimensions, and she said, "Oh, they're about knee high." And I said, "Okay, I'm on my way." So I met her in the parking lot of Piggly Wiggly in Phoenix City, Alabama. And all my friends were like, "You're crazy, those are hideous." But I added some new lampshades and got some trim tape, and I really think they turned out well. I just love them. And then this, I actually found last week at Goodwill for $8. It's an original painting. I think it's so cool. And then these are IKEA curtains. IKEA curtains all the way. If you cannot afford custom drapes, which I cannot do 99% of the time, I just hot glued some grosgrain ribbon to them for trim, and I think they turned out really well. So the walls throughout the entire house are Delicate White by PPG, but I really like to start with white walls and then add a lot of art and texture and color on top of it, kind of as a blank canvas. But in both of our boys' rooms, we decided to go with this kind of blue trim. It's called Ghost Whisperer. And so I found these a bit unattractive bookcases on Facebook Marketplace, and we mounted them to the wall, and I painted them the same trim color. And it's just been a cool addition to the boys' rooms because it lets them display all of their treasures, and they're big readers, and so they have all their books on display. And I just love these bookcases. This is our youngest son's room, and it probably has the best light in the house. It is right above the entry hall. This bed my dad grew up in, and this trunk was in his bedroom growing up, which is just super special. He loves toys of all kinds, so under his bed he has about 1 million toy boxes with all of his treasures. For bedding here, we just kept it simple. It's IKEA. These are IKEA little pillows, and then some estate sale finds for pillows. And I also found all these tennis and badminton rackets at estate sales and just stuck them on his walls. I think they were 75 cents each, and they make just such a cool little statement piece. We continued the bookshelves here, and I really wanted to keep the things that he goes for most within reach. So all of his favorite books are at the bottom here, and things a little bit more breakable are at the top. He does still play with these, however, because they're so cool and they're his favorite. What home means to me is really just a soft place to land. It is a place where all of my family can be together, something that I will never take for granted. And you know, the world is tough. And when I walk through my door and when my children and my husband walk through this door, I just want them to feel safe and loved and surrounded by comfort. And that has really been the most important thing for me in designing a home, is that, you know, I want it to be beautiful, but really I just want it to be functional, and I want it to be cozy and safe, and a place for us to gather and live. Thanks so much for stopping by, Homeworthy. I loved showing you around my home. Until next time.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.